Way to go. Good afternoon and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment hearings for the Urban Panel, Panel 1. We are a City of Ottawa quasi-judicial tribunal that holds public hearings to consider Planning Act applications, including minor variances to the zoning requirements and consents to sever land. Our hearings are now in person at Ben Franklin Place, 101 Centerpoint Drive. We also enable remote participation by video conferencing for our registered speakers. We are live streaming on YouTube and the video will be archived and available for future viewing by the public. My name is John Blatherwick and I'll be chairing today's hearing. You can address me by my name or as chair. With me today are my fellow panel members, Mr. Kiklikian, Ms. Lecrier, our new member, Mr. Haskin, and online, Ms. Tremblay. Listed on the agenda and appearing on screen from time to time are the applications that we will hear today. For the sake of efficiency, we may deal with agenda items in a different order. For your information, please understand that panel members have reviewed the planning reports and any written submissions in support or in opposition to each of the applications. Today, we'll hear any oral submissions relating to the applications. As part of the statutory public notification requirements, each applicant is required to post a sign on the property in question before the hearing, and I'm assuming that happened. Secretary Treasurer, we have all the stat decks.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do.
Okay. The panel may ask for a brief presentation of an application, followed by questions for the applicant and or the applicant's agent and city planning staff. We will then hear from members of the public who are registered to speak, and we may also have questions for them. Finally, the applicant who has the burden of proof will have an opportunity to make final comments in reply. Please address your comments to the chair, starting with your name and spelling if necessary. At the conclusion of the hearing, the panel may either make an oral decision or we may reserve our decision, which means it will not be delivered today. In either case, and within 10 days of the hearing, the Committee of Adjustment will send an official written notice of decision and reasons for it to all the parties, participants, and anyone else who has requested a copy. Anyone have any questions regarding the procedure we'll be following today? Okay. If not, we'll continue on. And first of all, are there any declarations of interest, any of the panel members regarding the applications we're hearing this afternoon or the applications before panels 2 and 3? Just like that.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday, panel 2, 14 Colonnade. My employer rents office space at that address.
Thank you. All right, and Ms. Tremblay?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So declaration of conflict of interest on the property at 581 Brunel, as I have a financial interest in the property nearby.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Tremblay. All right, we have several minutes to adopt today. The minutes for the 4th of June and the 18th of June, 2025. Regarding the 4th of June, any modifications, concerns, corrections? We're all okay with the applicant with those minutes from the 4th of June. All right, they're adopted, and the same for the 18th of June. Everyone in compliance with these? All right, so those have been adopted as well. We will now move on to adjournment requests, and there is one adjournment request on the agenda today, and this is for item number 4, which is 432 4036 Ravenhill. And I believe the adjournment request has come from the Westboro Community Association, and I believe it's Ms. Klassen, who is a neighbor.
Mr. Chair, I'll start by saying we're unaware of the request from the Westboro Community Association. That hasn't been shared with us.
Okay. All right. Do we have representatives from either the Westboro Community Association or Ms. Klassen? Please come down. The department's aware of the request for adjournment.
Yes, we are, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what just happened?
I was just asking if the department is aware of the request for
Oh,
adjournment.
aware of, I'm sorry, thank you.
Sir.
It's Tim Gray, Timgray with the Westboro Community Association.
Okay, and the rationale for your request for adjournment, Mr. Gray?
Well, we've had a couple of meetings with Kathleen here, and she is the dominant tenement of the right of way. And it's fairly clear to us that there is going to be some significant changes in use via the number of people that are going to be using that right of way. And I think that because of the fact there's been no consultation with her at all, or I'm not even sure if there's been any consultation with any of the neighbors, that it should fall on the applicant and their agent to have that consultation and make sure that, you know, there's an understanding that of what is going to lead here.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Yes, I requested an adjournment because up until the signs went up on the property, I was under the assumption and understanding that they were proceeding with the previous plans, which the committee had accepted in 2023. So I was surprised and also concerned then about some of, I don't want to get into renovation questions regarding the neighboring property, but as one of the conditions was severance of the services, I was very concerned when it appeared that there were renovations starting, as I was told they were proceeding with their plans. So I had been given no notification about the sanitary sewer, anything being separated or work being done to that. And so the other concerns I had was the signage said 4 townhouses. Then when I read the application, it appeared there were 10 dwellings. And also it appears that the variances that were conditionally granted are being assumed. And maybe that is protocol, but I don't know. So it appeared that those were conditionally granted, so I thought they should be requesting those again. Also, they've submitted a site plan which does appear to build on the right-of-way, which again means that I am left to deal with this directly with them rather than another body. So just some lack of clarity around what's happening. I again, until 3 weeks ago, I was told that they were proceeding with plans. So, or whenever the signs went up. So I don't have the exact date of that. So I just want to be clear, but the sign was my first notification that the plans had changed. So.
Thank you, Ms. Klassen. I was chair of this panel in 2022 when we first dealt with this application. And there were right-of-way issues then, and then in 2023, I was on the panel as well. Are there still right-of-way issues in your opinion?
Yes, there are still issues.
And they are what? Just out of curiosity.
Wow.
Right. So you have problems.
There's been no resolution of the issues that were there then and still are here now, including I'm paying taxes on a garage that is apparently not being, it doesn't even appear in their application as being part of the existing conditions on the property.
So to inform the panel, how much discussion was there between the applicants and yourself regarding this this modified application?
For clarity, I have had no I contacted them in March to ask what was happening in the property and was concerned because of the renovation and knowing they needed to separate services. I was advised they are not doing any renovations and that they were proceeding with their plans. So that's the last I had heard about the building, about the development on the corner.
Right.
From them.
Thank you, Ms. Clausen. So, Mr. Chown, you've heard from the neighbor that she feels that she has not been spoken to and has not been given, I'm assuming, the information she needs to satisfy her needs. And she's asking, and as well as the Westboro Community Association, for an adjournment so that this issue can be resolved.
So, Mr. Chair, we're prepared to address the comments and the request. Mr. Polton will provide what I believe to be a succinct response to the adjournment request, and then I'll have some following comments.
Okay, so I've reviewed the adjournment.
Just a second, Mr. Polton, just a second. I'm just going to ask staff. As far as the right-of-way issue is concerned, staff obviously have reviewed this application. Does staff see an issue with the current right-of-way configuration? Because that was a problem the last two times this was before us.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have reviewed the development as well as the existing easements for pedestrian and vehicle access. And from our review, we have concluded that there are no concerns related to the right-of-way.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Bolton, just to the request for
Yeah,
adjournment.
just to the request for adjournment. So one, I have not reviewed the community association's request for adjournment. We did not unfortunately receive those comments ahead of this hearing. I do have the adjournment request that was received from Kathleen Klassen.
Yeah.
Klassen, my apologies. So with regard to that, or adjournment request speaks to 4 different aspects of the application. The first aspect is the garages on the property. So I can confirm that our covering letter does speak to both garages in different locations in the covering letter. I admit the cover letter could have been a little clearer. That being said, both garages are identified to be demolished. They're both on the subject property. They're both owned by the owners of the property of the applicant. And so I hope that clarifies the situation in terms of the garages. There is no garage at 438 Ravenhill Avenue, so I'm not sure in terms of the request for an adjournment, what garage is being referenced there. The second aspect has to do with the minor variances conditionally granted in 2023. That was for a separate application. This application, I can confirm that it does not need to be amended. All required variances in support of the townhouses and severances were requested and are part of this application. In terms of the third aspect of the letter, it speaks to public notice, the signs posted on the property. I can confirm the signs posted are accurate. The proposed development is 4 townhouse dwelling units. And then finally, in terms of the fourth aspect, it makes reference to the previously approved site plan for the other applications and makes reference to deeded rights at 438 Ravenhill. So I can confirm that the right-of-way on the property is registered on title of the property, meaning that it can't be removed without a court order or without approval of all parties. That is regardless of the Committee of Adjustment applications being heard today.
Okay. So
in terms of clarifying the legal status of that right-of-way, it exists. Nothing that could be approved today would change that. And I'm hoping that covers the 4 aspects of the adjournment request. We would request that the committee hear the applications today.
would there be any utility to adjourning for several weeks to have further discussions with Ms. Klassen and the Community Association? Opinion.
So, Mr. Chair, that was where I was going to go. You correctly noted that this property has been before this panel, the committee, on 2 previous occasions.
Yep.
On both of those occasions, Ms. Clausen and her legal counsel raised questions about the right-of-way. We've assured Ms. Clausen over and over again that nothing related to these applications in any way, shape, or form is going to affect her right to access her rear yard over that right of way. Nothing that's before the committee today, nothing that was before the committee 2 years ago was going to change her legal rights. And there's nothing our client is proposing to do that would affect those rights. They're clearly established and registered on title. My understanding is that Mr. Gray, on behalf of the Community Association, is here to support Ms. Clausen's concerns. There's been, as is evidence from the submissions from Ms. Clausen in writing and the evidence from her and her legal counsel 2 years ago, there's some friction between her and our client. Having said that, there's absolutely nothing to be gained by adjourning these applications. There's not going to be a meeting of the minds suddenly in 2 weeks when there have been issues going on, in Ms. Clausen's words at least, for years with respect to the right-of-way. She still hasn't indicated what those issues are. You asked, she didn't answer your question. So I'm not sure what those issues are, but there's nothing at risk in terms of her rights to access. Mr. Chair, the project that's before you today is very similar to the project that was before you 2 years ago. Instead of 2 large singles, it's 4 townhouse units. The project, there's nothing new about it that's going to raise concerns that weren't already discussed and raised previously. With all due respect, we see absolutely no benefit in adjourning these applications, and in fact, it will be a disadvantage to our client who thought he was going to get a building permit earlier this year, and here we are in late July, and he still doesn't have his building permit. So there's nothing to be gained by adjourning, and we'd request that the application be heard in order. Thank you very much.
And are you of the opinion, Mr. Chown, that your your presentation will deal with the issues that Ms. Clausen has continued to raise?
Well, as I said, I'm not sure what her issues are, quite frankly. She's raised concerns about construction activities in the other half of the semi, which has nothing to do with the application. She's raised concerns with respect to notice. Mr. Bolton has assured you that that notice is correct, and staff haven't failed when they prepared the signage. They hadn't failed to prepare that properly. I'm not aware, I don't see anything in her submissions that is cause to defer or adjourn the application. And in our presentation, we will speak to the merits.
Thank you, Mr. Chown. Any questions from the members regarding this?
Raise a question or?
Just to the adjournment, Ms. Clausen.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Chown just said that they did not have a building permit yet. I guess I don't know why that is the case. So it's not clear to me why that would impact this new application or the reasons for an adjournment. But also there are reasons that they don't know what the issues are. It's because they won't come to the table to discuss them. And I know you don't want to hear them because I understand it's a civil matter. So I don't want to raise them here, and I want to respect your purview. Thank you.
The committee, quite frankly, after hearing this application twice in the past, were of the opinion that the majority of the issues you raised had been dealt with. Anyway.
Chair, I wonder if just because they haven't, for some reason, they didn't get the Westboro Community Association's letter, if I could just briefly speak to some of just one real issue. Because Kathleen is the dominant tenement of the right-of-way, that right-of-way is in place for her benefit and her benefit alone. Because she received that benefit, she also has responsibilities and liabilities for that right-of-way. If somebody was to slip on that right-of-way, she could be sued. That's the law. And I know you don't want to get into, the legal issues of it, but if she was allowed to have a real sit down with them and some of these issues could be addressed, and then moving on to the maintenance agreement, joint use agreement, that could all be folded in there. I think in the long run, if they can work together to do something like that now, this could potentially drag on legally, and the building couldn't go ahead. We've had 2 meetings with Kathleen, and essentially she's she doesn't have a real issue with the development itself. She just needs some confidence that she will not be seriously affected by the number of people that will be able to use the right of way in the future. The development has 10 units, so there potentially could be 10 more people that have the right to use that right of way. Whereas now there is just one other person, and that is Kathleen's next door neighbor. So there is issues here that are different from the last 2 applications.
But they're not really before us. These are civil matters between adjoining property owners.
That's right. But
So, just,
yeah, I agree, but there will be a condition for a joint use and maintenance agreement, which, because Kathleen is the dominant tenement of the right of way, she has responsibilities for the maintenance of that right of way. And so that has to be resolved somehow. They could sit down in the next 2 weeks and work that out, or they could spend the next 2 years in a legal battle.
and again, that's a civil matter between adjoining property owners. And that's not what's here before us today. You've heard from staff that they have no concerns regarding this right of way at this point. So thank you very much for your input. I am prepared to hear this application today. Other members of the panel? Mr. Kuplikin? Ms. Tremblay? And I think quite frankly, the issues that are before us today and in the mind of the adjoining neighbor can be dealt with through your presentation, gentlemen. And again, a lot of this is a civil matter between adjoining property owners and is not within the purview of this committee, as you well know. Anyway.
Thank you,
So,
Mr. Chair.
we will proceed with this application in the order. Thank you.
Excuse me, can you go, if you want to sit there, committee staff can help you out. Make sure.
No,
You cannot,
Sorry.
the chair, you have to go. Committee staff can help you. Can you just turn off?
all right. There were no other adjournment application requests on the agenda. However, we'd like to call down application number 6, 581 Brunel. And I believe that's Mr. Grant Henley. And you are, sir? The green button.
Oh,
Okay.
Jason Grant Henley, yeah.
Okay. So this is an application to subdivide the property. 2 separate parcels of land for the construction of 2 long semi-detached dwellings with additional dwelling units. And because it's a consent application, there is a requirement in the application form, which you will have filled out, That says, and I'll read it directly, a detailed cover letter explaining your proposal and referring to the subdivision criteria under section 5124 of the Planning Act, and including all planning evidence necessary to support your application. There is no rationale under section 5124 in your submission. And unless you're prepared to work through all 14 criteria in 5124, I would suggest, gentlemen, that the best thing we can do here is to adjourn this application for 2 weeks so that you can meet the requirements of submission.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that requirement. So I think we need to adjourn to address it.
So this would be adjourned to the next hearing. It's basically to address section 5124 of the Act, which you're required to do when you file this consent application.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that, and
Okay.
I'll review it.
All right. So all in favor of adjourning this until, what's the date? Secretary Treasurer? August 6th?
Yeah, August.
And we have space on the application?
There is space.
Okay. It's just to, we need to hear from you how this meets those requirements. So,
Right, okay. I misunderstood when I met with the representative for applying for severance. I didn't realize we would require it for this
Yeah.
site.
And
Okay.
is this for both the severance and the easement at the same time, or?
Yes, the whole development.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
thanks.
We'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Just give us the information we need and we'll proceed with the application. Thank you.
And does that need to be circulated or it's just
Um,
directly to you?
I don't think so.
No, Mr. Chair, it would not require
No.
recirculation.
Okay.
There's no further cost as far as that's concerned,
Right.
just a little
Great.
time.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right. It's adjourned. That concludes dealing with the adjournment applications. We also have on our agenda today 4 applications which we classify as unopposed applications. And that means that there are no objections or concerns from the parties, applicant, city, or the public. There are no amendments required. There are no registered speakers. The signposting declaration has been received. The applicant or their agent has confirmed that they agree with all requested conditions, and there are no questions from the panelists. And we have before us item number 1, which is 305 Clare. Item 2, which is 2486 Carlson. That's item 5. Item 7, which is 580 Cambridge Street South. And item 8 on the agenda, which is 148 Glenora. And unless there is someone in the audience or online who would like to speak to any of these applications, ma'am.
Hi, sorry, yes, this is about item number 5, Carlson.
Okay. And you are, ma'am?
Jasmine Paoloni, the agent for the applicant.
Okay. What I'll do is let's deal with the unopposed applications and then we'll get to you. So regarding items 1, 7, and 8, nothing coming in online. There's nobody in the audience. They are on our consent agenda. All in favor of granting these applications as applied for? Okay. So applications 1, 7, and 8 have been granted. While you're here, we'll deal with item 5.
Perfect, thank you,
So,
appreciate it.
You are again, ma'am?
Jasmine Paoloni, agent for the applicant.
Okay.
And with me, I have Yasmin Bahadori as well, who worked on the file. So I apologize for the late notice. I appreciate that the item was fast-tracked. We've received a request from the client, from the property owner this morning to request an adjournment for the application. to revise the draft 4R plan to adjust the location of the severance line.
Okay, and how long do you need to undertake that?
2 weeks would suffice. The next agenda, if there is room.
Do we have room on the 6th of August?
The agenda is quite full for the 6th of August, so your other option would be the 20th of August.
You've heard from
Sure.
staff that they prefer the 20th.
Yeah, that whatever the next opening would be.
Okay, so you're going to submit an updated R plan?
Yes, it would be an updated draft 4R plan, and then we have a site plan sketch we'll update as well, along with the rationale letter and the application forms.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, sorry. I just wanted to confirm, if we're moving the actual severance line, there's a recirculation, is there not? And I just want to make sure staff is okay with, like, is the second meeting in August enough time for them? Because I would think that the revised plans have to be in very, very quickly if we're going to try and meet that date.
Next week, I guess.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if there are changes to the application and it will require recirculation, committee staff prefers that it's adjourned sine die, as that doesn't put pressure on our staff to try to accommodate for a specific hearing. So any recirculation should be adjourned sine die, and it will be scheduled for the next available hearing.
That works for us as well. I understand that that's the committee standard. And there would be a small fee for that as well, I believe, right?
Yes, and if you contact committee staff, they can confirm the information they require.
Okay.
Okay. So all in favor of adjourning this sine die? All right. We'll see you hopefully on the 20th of August.
Thank you.
Okay. 1, 8. Okay. All right, where am I here? The next application we will deal with is item number 2 on the agenda. 470 Bronson Avenue. This is an application to permit the expansion of a legal non-conforming use. And Mr. Perot, I believe, is the agent, and he's remote. Is he online, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
Yes, Mr. Chair, he's just being brought into the hearing.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you, committee members. My name's Guillaume Perrault. I'm the agent representing Suncor Petro-Canada for the redevelopment of the site at 470 Bronson Avenue.
So this is a permission application. If you could give us a brief presentation.
Sure, absolutely. Just waiting for the presentation to load up. I do have some materials that was sent to the committee.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you have before you is the redevelopment of 470 Bronson. What we're looking to do is to extend the legal non-conforming use of the existing gas bar. As part of this redevelopment, we will be adding a takeout restaurant, as well as a walk-up window facing the Bronson Avenue or the eastern side, with a new sidewalk connection to the sidewalk along Bronson Avenue. We'll also be extending the landscaping on the south side of the property and replacing the existing garbage enclosure with earth bin garbage and recycling system. On to the second slide. So what you see before here is the existing layout for the convenience store. And then on the third slide, we'll have the proposed redevelopment of this convenience store, where the takeout restaurant will use 64 square meters of the total 216.6 square meters inside the convenience store. Next slide. So right now we're seeing the existing elevations of the property. To note, we do have the mural that's facing the eastern side of the property. And then on the next slide, we see that we will be relocating the mural towards the southern side of the property. And next to the new walk-up window, we also have provisions for an additional mural. And then next slide. So right here, we see the existing mural on the eastern side of the property facing Bronson Avenue. And on the next slide, we have the existing gas bars, so the canopy and the gas pump, which again will not be dealt with during the renovations. It's just the convenience store. And then on the next slide, we have the view of the gas station from Gladstone Avenue. And on the next slide, so again, what we're presenting here is the permission to extend the legal non-conforming use of the gas bar to have the restaurant use. Now, this existing gas station has existed on the site since 1987, with current configuration dating from 2007. And then for the two tests of the permission, first, we see that the application is desirable and appropriate for the development of the subject lands. So again, we will be keeping the existing gas station, which will offer services for the community to refuel their vehicles. And with the addition of the restaurant, we are adding an additional use, which is legal under the current zoning bylaw. And then for number two, the application will not result in undue adverse impacts on the surrounding properties. So again, the location of the gas bar at the corner of Bronson Avenue and Gladstone, where we will be keeping the existing tree on the south side of the property, offering coverage to the new takeout restaurant. And we've positioned the takeout window to the eastern side of the property towards Bronson Avenue, which will add desirability and minimize any impacts it may have on the property on the south. And that's it for my presentation. So thank you, and I'm open for questions.
I think Mr. Kuklickian had a couple of questions.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Mr. Bell, for your presentation. I'm curious about something that you mentioned that's in your report and in the presentation, that the application will not result in adverse impacts on the surrounding properties and adjacent neighborhood. Am I correct to assume that the proposed change in land use, which is the additional land use of a fast food facility within the existing footprint of your building, would that result in more traffic to the site? Am I correct in assuming that it would, or would you agree to that statement?
Yes, I would agree that there would be additional traffic that's compared to what currently exists with just a gas station.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Then assuming that that's the situation, how much traffic would be generated? Has there been any sort of analysis, even on a sort of back of the envelope type of analysis on before and after? Maybe this question is more appropriate to the planning staff. Is that going to be a requirement? Or have you an idea of the additional traffic that would generate? I know it's not a drive-through. You mentioned it's a walk-in or walk-by window. But I'm just curious to know if, how much traffic, has there been any idea of the kind of traffic that would be generated to the site?
Yep, so through the chair, our understanding is that our client has an understanding of the amount of traffic. Today, I'm not able to confirm what that amount is, but it was taken into account when our client decided to renovate this gas station.
Okay, so we really don't know sort of the additional traffic but I read that there's no adverse impact foreseen. So additional traffic can have an impact on some neighborhoods. People see that as an issue in a lot of respects. So anyway, thank you for your response.
Thank you.
Ms. Tremblay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow on that, just want to confirm that. So, Mr. Perrault, you're not aware of any traffic study or parking study that might have been done as background to this application?
Yeah, through the chair, that's correct. I'm not aware that our client has done any traffic impact study when evaluating the current proposal.
And so, Mr. Perrault, can you confirm that this application will also go through site plan?
Correct. So what we've been going through is we submitted this application for pre-consultation. And through the pre-consultation, when we've spoken to the planner, they've indicated to us to go through the permission application phase.
All right. So I guess my concern here is that it might be premature. So we would have preferred you to be further along in the site planning process that essentially says, okay, we do have the traffic studies, we do have the background information that supports the revisions to our site plan, and then come before the committee and ask for permission. To me, that goes hand in hand. Then we have some comfort that some of these impact issues are in fact have been addressed, and that we can speak with confidence about those kinds of things. So I was wondering, from my standpoint, I would almost prefer to adjourn this until you're a little bit further along in the site plan. I don't know what the others think, but it's kind of my proposal.
Thank you. So through the chair, I just want to add in that when I did speak to the planning staff for this application, no issues were raised in terms of the increased traffic.
Mr. Perrault, one of the criteria we use when we're dealing with permissions is that we may permit the use, land, building, or structure that is similar to the purpose for which it was used in the day the bylaw was passed and is more compatible with the uses permitted by the bylaw than the purpose for it was used on the day the bylaw was passed. And if this increase in activity on the site is going to generate a significant amount of traffic increase at that intersection, how is this more compatible? So I think Ms. Tremblay is absolutely correct. I think we need to wait until the site plan application has been dealt with before we proceed with your permission application. Ms. Tremblay.
Yeah, so in this case, I understand sort of the catch-22. So before they go through the whole site planning process, I do want to have some comfort that the permission application makes sense. From a land use only standpoint, I believe that this particular use is heading in the right direction. But I do believe that we also have an obligation to understand what the impacts are. So I'm not saying that they have to have gone through the whole full-blown site plan application process, but if they're going to go in that route and they have, if there's any way that they can at all provide some sort of transportation background, whether it's just to get an engineer, from a preliminary standpoint, an engineer to have a look at it and provide us with some of that evidence. That's what I would be looking for. So if they want to go through the full-blown, transportation study after that, that's fine. But I would like to get something in writing that gives me that comfort, the issue that Member Kecklicken raised. But not to necessarily require the whole site planning process.
Thank you, Ms. Tremblay. Ms. O'Connell from the Planning Department.
There is some background to this discussion with planning staff, so I just wanted to make sure that the members hear Ms. Horn out. She has some of that background. I'd like to provide it before you decide to adjourn or make a decision on the application.
Okay. All right. Ms. Horn?
Thank you, Ms. O'Connell. So in this case, planning services would not be requesting a site plan control because it doesn't meet the threshold for that, as far as I'm aware, and what they're presenting today. And even once a site plan control application is received, there are certain thresholds that need to be met in order for us to require a TIA. And based on the scale, in our opinion, from what we've seen, it doesn't seem that that would be triggered in this case. And I would also like to note that the applicant will still need to go through the MTO's permit process. And as far as I'm aware, depending on, again, the scale that's being proposed, they do require a traffic impact assessment in some cases, depending, again, on the scale of development.
And this, Ms. Horn, would be because of its proximity to the 417?
That is correct.
So as far as the city is concerned, there's no requirement here for a site plan, and there's no need to do a traffic impact assessment.
That is correct.
All right. Ms. Horn. Ms. Tremblay?
Yeah, through you,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair.
I figured you'd have another question or two. Please proceed.
Sorry, I just wanted to make a comment about that. So Ms. Horn's information is actually very, very helpful in this case. We now have an understanding as to why we don't have that information before us. And I didn't see that in the planning report. So it is the kind of thing that would have maybe helped us wrap our minds around, how we're going to address, because really what we're trying to get at, right, is how do we address the impact side of the issue here? And if there is no site planning, there's no need for a traffic impact assessment, then I think it would be I would want to hear back from the agent to tell me how, where's his planning evidence then to be able to tell us that there isn't an impact as a result of this use. So I just thought I just add that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I just have an additional question to planning staff. What is the trigger that you mentioned? Is it based on the proportion of the footprint within the building of the fast food?
Thank you, Mr. Hicklin. I believe there is a minimum threshold for vehicle trips expected as well as building footprint. And I believe my colleague, Ms. O'Connell, has her hand up and can elaborate further.
Ms. O'Connell, please.
Thank you, Chair. My recollection, I've just asked our transportation planner to clarify, but my conservative recollection is that the threshold is 50 vehicle trips per hour is the minimum threshold for a transportation impact assessment to be required. But it's based on a combination of factors. It's based on the land use is one of those factors, that there's some analysis that's done to determine whether the scale of the land use itself would trigger a TIA. But I can say just based on past experience that for sure that this change in land use, even if we were to in fact request a site plan application, wouldn't trigger a transportation study as part of that application before us, because the impacts are essentially, because of the scale of what's being proposed here, are deemed to be minimal from a transportation perspective.
Thank you. I'm just one more thing, if I may. I'm assuming that this walk-up window that's being proposed would remain as such. It can't be converted to a drive-through.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. It will just be a walk-up window. No, current is not looking to either transform it or upgrade it to a drive-through.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, but what I'm hearing from staff is that no one's really taken a look at recent turning movement counts for this intersection. No one has actually paid attention to the level of service that exists at the corner of Bronson Avenue and Gladstone Avenue to determine whether or not 50 vehicles an hour would be acceptable or not. Ms. O'Connell?
I wouldn't say that we're saying that. I think staff at the City of Ottawa do pay attention to turning and current vehicle movements in the city through our signals group. And so staff would be aware, not in the planning group necessarily, but certainly are aware of what's happening in terms of traffic patterns. What I'm saying is that the thresholds for requiring a review are not met through to look at either a site plan application, or if that was required, to trigger the need for a transportation study. And that's just purely based on my past experience with the scale of what's being proposed here, that it's too small.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Ms. O'Connell. Any further questions from members of the panel? Is there anyone in the hall or anyone online who would like to comment on this application or has questions or concerns? Okay. Seeing none. Final comments from the applicant, Mr. Perot?
Yep, thank you. So I just want to add that if we are required, or after speaking with planning staff, if there is a requirement for either a traffic study or any other type of study, we would be willing to adjourn the application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Perot. I think in an abundance of caution, we will reserve on this application. And you will hear from us within 10 days of today's date. Thank you very much. Thanks all.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's number 2. 3. Next application on the agenda is item 3, 27 3rd Avenue. This is an application to subdivide the property to 2 separate parcels of land to create separate ownerships for each half of the existing semi-detached dwelling. And the rear addition will be demolished. And Ms. Smith, I believe, is the applicant's agent. Push the button.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. I have with me Ali Tahiri, the owner of the property.
So a brief, very brief explanation, Ms. Smith, of what you're requesting.
We're requesting severing the property into 2 parcels. I'm happy to do a quick presentation.
Yeah, very brief, please. Go ahead, please proceed.
We did send documents.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, here's the location. Next slide, please. You can see the pattern is smaller properties all along the street and behind. Even the property behind has been severed. Next slide, please. You can see the property has a driveway on the west side, and after a lot of discussion, we decided to keep the original building and renovate it. Next slide, please. The driveway will be the location of the parking, and there will only be side yard parking now. Next slide, please. So there's an existing rear yard addition that will be demolished. The existing rear yard parking will be turned into a patio, and where the existing addition is being demolished will be planted with grass, and a walkway to the rear patio will be installed. And the stones at the front yard will be removed and grass will be installed at the front. Next slide, please. You see the stones here that will be removed and that will be replaced with grass. Next slide, please. You can see this rear yard addition that was poorly built. It's questionable, and that will be removed and grass will be planted there at that rear yard addition.
Okay.
Next slide, please. And you can see the building was designed as a semi, and we're just asking to officially instate a property line between the two sides.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Any questions from the members of the panel? I just have one question. You're aware that because this is a severance, that you need to satisfy the provisions of 5124 of the Act, the requirements for consent. And I don't see that in your submission. So we'll do this very quickly. The proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement or the provincial planning statement.
Yes, absolutely.
There is no plan of subdivision needed for this application.
No.
And the proposal has adequate regard for the 14 criteria in section 5124 of the Act.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with section 5124.
That's actually a requirement that you have to, that's right here on the first page of the application that you have to submit to us. That says a detailed cover letter explaining your proposal and referring to the subdivision criteria under section 5124 of the Planning Act. Ms. Smith,
It's not a subdivision though.
you're still severing. You still
Okay.
have to meet the requirements. So,
Okay.
you know, this is a very minor item right now.
Yes.
But quite frankly, in future, please read if you're coming in for a consent, meet our submission requirements.
Okay.
The same for everybody.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the audience or anyone online regarding this application? Need to vote? All in favor of the application as presented? All right, their application's approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Six, what have we got here? Let's deal with item number 9 on the agenda, which is 144 Northwestern Avenue. This is to permit an application to permit a front-facing parking space for 1/2 of an existing semi-detached dwelling. And the agent for this is Mr. Sewer.
Good afternoon.
Yes. All right. Okay. Presentation, please.
Happy to. We have slides that were submitted, if those
Yep.
could be put up.
I believe we have them.
Perfect. So good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Arjun Sewer. With my colleague Murray Chown, and we'll be presenting the minor variance application for 144 Northwestern Avenue. If you could go to the next slide, please. So the property is located in Champlain Park within Ward 15 in the city of Ottawa. Next slide. So this is a picture of the subject site. You can see the property is developed with 1/2 of a semi-detached dwelling.
It doesn't currently have a front-facing attached garage, unlike the other half of the semi-detached dwelling, which you see on the left-hand side of the image. That side has one parking space and a front-facing attached garage, and another space in the driveway. So the owner of the property constructed the semi-detached dwelling with no parking space, as she doesn't own a vehicle, and instead chooses to bike and take public transportation. The owner did this because they intended to provide more soft landscaping in the front yard by not providing a front-facing attached garage and driveway. Next slide, please. So this image shows the signage that is provided along Northwestern Avenue that regulates the parking that's available on the street. So at the time of construction, the owner was under the impression that an on-street parking would be available for her elderly parents when they visit. And as you can see on the slide, on-street parking is limited to 1 hour on weekdays between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. And then stopping is prohibited between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. Between May and October. And then that signage notes that permit holders are exempted, which suggests that on-street parking is available outside of the parking restrictions for permit holders. So if you go to the next slide. So contrary to this signage, on-street parking permits are not available on Northwestern Avenue. As you can see on the slide, the site is not within one of the blue zones, which indicates eligibility for an on-street parking permit. The site is also not a green street, which indicates specific streets where permit holders can park. Next slide, please. So as I said, though the property owner doesn't own a vehicle herself, her elderly parents do own a vehicle, and they visit her often for a few days and sometimes for 2 weeks or more. The restrictions on parking on the street has resulted in the applicants and the owner's parents having to make other parking arrangements, which have posed challenges for them, particularly in the winter, as they have mobility issues. They'll often have to park further afield and then walk all the way to visit our client's property. And so upon realizing that the on-street parking was not available despite what the signage indicates, the owner installed a front yard parking space, as you can see in the slide above you. That front yard parking space consists of 2 wheel strips constructed with permeable pavers to try and minimize the impact to the green space in the front yard. Next slide, please. So these are the requested variances, both of which pertain to permitting a front yard parking space. Next slide, please. So now I'll run through the 4 tests. So the first test for minor variance is that the general intent and purpose of the OP is maintained. The site is designated neighborhood in the interurban transect. Section 2.24 of the official plan includes policies related to building accessible, inclusive communities for all ages. The requested variance supports this intent of the OP to design for all ages by providing 1 parking space for the owner's parents who have mobility issues to use when they visit. The OP also provides direction for current parking demand while transitioning towards less automobile-dependent development by establishing on-street permit parking zones. As I said, Northwestern Avenue is not an on-street permit parking zone. Based on the dominant streetscape character of this site, which is BBA, a dwelling with a front-facing attached garage similar to these properties on the slide before you would be permitted as of right. Demolition of the existing semi-detached dwelling to construct a new semi-detached dwelling with a front-facing attached garage would be costly and inefficient and could result in a similar condition to the properties that are shown on the slide in front of you. And so parking in the front yard would have no more impact on the public realm than parking in a permitted driveway, as you see on the slide in front of you. If you don't mind, I'm going to continue running through the test. So the second test for minor variance is that the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw is maintained. So the requested variances are to permit front yard parking. The intent of the provision prohibiting front yard parking is to ensure that the public realm is not visually impacted by vehicles. The requested relief results in 1 front yard parking space being provided. as on-street parking isn't available. The owner's parents are not their owner's parents are not accepted from the parking restrictions on Northwestern Avenue and are unable to park on the street. I want to emphasize again that if the owner could provide a front-facing attached garage and a driveway, which would provide a parking space in the garage and a parking space in the driveway in front of the house. But rather than reconstructing the house, the front yard parking space is more environmentally efficient and ensures that the green space in the front and rear yard can be preserved to the greatest extent possible. And so the variances maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. The third test is that the variance is considered suitable and desirable for the use of land. So the requested variances enable the homeowner's elderly parents to park on the property when they visit without being subject to the parking restrictions. The front yard parking space is suitable as it has a similar public realm impact to the other properties on Northwestern Avenue. Adequate space is provided in the front yard to suitably accommodate the parking space and while providing sufficient soft landscaped areas. I'll also note that the owner of the property has planter boxes in her front yard, and that would actually prevent the use of the rest of that front yard for front yard parking or to expand that front yard parking space beyond what is currently provided. And so if we could go to the next slide. So the fourth and final test for minor variances, that the variances are considered minor in nature. As I've emphasized, the front yard parking space is no more impactful to the public realm than the existing context. 15 of the lots in the SCA area are developed with front-facing attached garages, with the possibility of vehicles being parked in front of the dwelling. Along Northwestern Avenue between Pontiac Street and Scott Street, 47 lots, and those are the lots indicated on the image above, are developed with front-facing attached garages or front yard parking spaces. And you can see on the image what that looks like. And so this minimizes any potential adverse impact on the proposed front yard parking space as it doesn't depart from the existing context. The front yard parking space also, as built, results in more front yard soft landscaping than the adjacent property, including the adjacent property at 146 Northwestern, which has a front-facing attached garage and a single driveway. As you see, the front yard parking space is provided with wheel strips constructed with permeable pavers. The use of the permeable pavers, as you can see on the left-hand image, ensures that the landscaped appearance of the front yard is maintained. And again, by not constructing that front-facing attached garage, the dwelling is actually shorter and it's a bit shallower than the adjacent semi-detached dwelling because there's no space in the building that needs to be provided for a garage for parking a vehicle. And so this actually ensures that the rear yard that the owner provides is greater than what is being provided had she constructed a front-facing attached garage. And, you know, previously in the slide presentation, I'd shown two images, and you can see that the proposed front yard parking space doesn't make the front entrance of the building any less prominent than it would if there was a garage or with a driveway. Next slide, please. So just to conclude, the variances meet the general intent and purpose of the OP and the zoning bylaw. The variances are suitable and desirable and are minor in nature. And the variances meet the four tests under section 45(1) of the Planning Act and represent good land use planning. Thanks.
During your presentation, you just mentioned that originally the plan did not include the driveway to allow for soft landscaped area. Has that been reviewed, and with this driveway addition, are you still compliant with all bylaws?
Sorry, you mean with the front yard parking space, are we compliant with all the bylaws?
Yeah.
That's correct. So the property owner, you know, only doesn't comply with the front yard to permit the front yard parking space. If you were to permit the front yard parking space, then the owner would comply with the zoning bylaw.
Thank you.
The battery keeps kicking out. We have several speakers on this item. We have Ms. Pearl from the Champlain Park Community Association, I believe. Is she online?
Yes. There we go. Okay. For some reason. Okay.
Ms. Pearl.
All right. Hi, Heather Pearl, Champlain Park Community Association. And we support the application for this specific case because the requested variance to allow this front yard parking space, in our opinion, is minor. And we want to thank Nova Tech for answering our few remaining questions because we immediately started looking at this. We're familiar with this property, and we want to thank them for answering our few remaining questions, including that the raised planters in front of the porch next to the stairs make it impossible to widen the parking space into the required front yard. In 2018, 144 Northwestern Avenue was built to a footprint that maximized the amount of available green space, preserved rear yard trees, helped to mitigate the local heat island effect, and retained a significant amount of permeable surface to absorb stormwater runoff. These are very important considerations in our community, we're already familiar with extreme heat, poor air quality, overland flooding, and actual flooding during the Ottawa River spring freshet. So anything that keeps permeable green space is very important to us. Back in 2017, when we came to the Committee of Adjustment on this for this application, we noted that the owner was communicating with the neighbors who support the proposal. They were concerned about the lack of a parking space for the north unit because the street is fairly narrow at that point. We said at the time that if current or future owners decide that they need a legal parking space, we wanted to see something that would include permeable paving and a driveway no wider than, at that point, 7.5 meters was allowed. With the coming bylaw changes, 2.6 will be allowed, and we would expect that. We just do not want to see driveway creep into the front yard. We would also prefer that there's something in the to recognize that this is a green driveway. We would not like to see it paved, especially since it needs a minor variance under the current bylaw. So it would be nice to see something saying that it has to be as it's being constructed with green permeable surface, permeable pavers, vegetated. We'd like to see it remain as it is. So we support the application for front yard parking so long as the rules specified in draft 2 of the proposed new zoning bylaw as they apply to this neighborhood are adhered to. We know it's not in effect yet, but given that this is an application for a minor variance under the existing bylaw, we think it would be a good thing if it complied with all of the provisions in part 2, which probably is going to be in effect in January or February anyway. So I just want to say that Champlain Park considers the merits of minor variance applications case by case. On Northwestern and elsewhere, there are some unapproved front yard parking spaces at residences built since 2007. The 158 Northwestern, you saw a picture of that on the slides presented by Novatech, is one of those. We would not support applications to normalize this. There are a few grandfathered, they existed prior to 2007, impermeable wider driveways. Over time, we expect that these uses will disappear. That was 143 Northwestern that was presented in the image. So we strongly oppose any move to create a strip mall style residential streetscape that obstructs the provision of safely walkable streets and the protection of property that neighbors' eyes on the street can provide. Walls of lined up vehicles provide excellent cover for home break-ins and other hazards. The walls of vehicles render pedestrians, especially children, invisible to people backing out of front yard residential parking lots. They also result in non-permeable paved frontages that contribute to heat and overland flooding. In this case, this particular driveway will not be a problem. In conclusion, we've long advocated for single-wide, fully permeable, vegetated driveways for residences, even when they have a garage. The proposed draft 2 front yard provisions are reasonable, and I have said that to staff. The requested front yard parking space currently meets, as it's in place now, all draft 2 requirements and provides environmental benefits to the neighbors who also approve of it. So given this neighborhood and the location of the residents within it, the official plan policies, and the future provisions in the bylaw related to residential parking in our inner urban area, the minor variance application for the single wide wheel strip vegetated fully permeable parking space at 144 Northwestern is very sensible, and we believe it should be approved. We just want to make sure that it doesn't get changed into something else in the future. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pearl. I also have a Michael Cheng who wanted to speak. He said in person. Mr. Cheng, please come forward. Push the green button.
Mr. Chair and member of the committee, my name is Michael Chang. I live on 145 Carlton Avenue, actually exactly the back side of the applicant. Now, for this, I have 2 items. Allow me to have 2 items. The number 1 item is to thank the committee from my experience, and then I will proceed to support this application, the current application. I really like to express my sincere thanks to the Committee of Adjustment for approving our 2018 application. I was here to allow us to reduce our side yard setback and expand our home to a better suited to our retirement saving. I'm 85 now. At the time, the Community Association strongly opposed our application, suggesting that we should expand our rear house at the back of our house. But we really need to expand on the side to enlarge the 2 existing small rooms already existing. We just need more rooms. This committee very carefully considered our situation within its proper context and approved our request. We remain deeply thankful to this committee for their considerate and fair decision. Since then, we have gained extra space for the 2 rooms where we need the extra space. In addition, we turn our backyard into a garden. Not only that, we also set up a system where we direct all the roof water to the back garden and put them in the storage room to water the garden. Including the garage roof water, we store them. Now, this is a huge help. Okay, good. Yeah, well, thank you for your grant 2018. Now, coming back to this question to support my back neighbor, my support letter is in front of you in detail.
Yeah.
Would you like me to read that for the benefit?
We've already reviewed your letter.
Okay, that's great. Now, in addition to that request, I would like to add that perhaps the committee will consider granting this not just for the parent as the original application, but also for other members of the family. As I stated, when we get old, we all need a vehicle. And this is a green parking, and we urge the committee approves this for the family, not just for the parents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the audience or online who wishes to speak to this application? Any questions from the members of the panel? No? It's not great.
Yeah, so my question's, I guess, for the city. So the signage clearly states in the application that there's permit parking available, but when the applicant went to go for it, they're not able to apply for it. That seems to be a solution that could be available if that's something that could be more flexible rather than something that could set a precedent for the rest of the neighborhood on front yard parking. What would be the city's position on having something like that available on this particular street on Northwestern, which doesn't seem to be available?
Thank you, Madam Lecuyer. In this situation, I think that's a bit outside the scope of the application. It's certainly something that potentially could be discussed with, the counselor and through our transportation team, but it's a bit beyond what we can do here.
So I guess my question is back to the applicant. What were alternative solutions considered before coming before us?
So through the chair, our client explored permit parking. And despite the signage on the street, discovered that permit parking, in fact, is not an option on Northwestern. They occasionally make arrangements to park at the mosque, but that's not a permanent solution to their problem. And as Mr. Sewer indicated in his presentation, that's not an appropriate solution in the winter months. It's a bit of a hike to get from the mosque to the subject site. So practically speaking, I think the application before you is the only option that addresses the issue that our client and the applicant is trying to resolve to the benefit of her elderly parents so that they can park on the site when they're there for an extended period of time, because otherwise they don't have an option. The parking restrictions on Northwestern, as indicated by the signage, are quite severe. There's no stopping permitted on the street between, I think it's May and October. You can't, not only can't you park, you can't stop. And the parking is further limited. The restrictions are quite significant to parking on Northwestern. I think realistically, that's because with the center median on Northwestern, the drive aisles are really quite narrow. And if people were parking along the street, it would cause all sorts of problems. So realistically speaking, I think this is the only option available to our client. Thank you for the question.
As a follow-up, so there's been no alternative solutions explored with neighbors. I know when some people come to visit, we borrow our neighbors' driveways. That's something that was explored.
Well, I think given that the parents sometimes visit for an extended period of 2 weeks, that would be extremely difficult. And technically speaking, it's not legal either.
Thank you, Ms. Lecuyer. So the staff position on this is that you do not support this application?
Thank you, Mr. Blatherwick. Staff's position is that we have some concerns in respect to the application's ability to meet the 4 tests.
Okay. More questions from the applicant? No.
Mr. Chair, if we can just provide a quick concluding comment.
I was about to ask you to do so, Mr. Chow.
So thank you. And I apologize for stepping on Mr. Sewer's toes here, but you have a number of letters of support from neighbors on this application. I'm informed that city staff actually use this property as an example of what they think parking should look like in the city and going forward. You've seen the images and the slides that Mr. Sewer presented. When there's no car there, you can't tell there's a parking space. Our client is very sensitive to maintaining a green, soft landscaped front yard. I guess I can reassure Ms. Pearl that at least as long as our client owns that property, what you see is what you get. It's a one-off application. Ms. Pearl has spoken to that as well. I thank her for her support. I thank the neighbors for their support, and we'd urge the committee to grant the application. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chown. Thank you, Mr. Sewer. With that, I think we will reserve on this application, and you will hear our decision, or you'll receive our decision within 10 days. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And don't leave the table. All right. That leaves us with one application left on the agenda, which is item number 432, 436 Ravenhill. And this is an application to subdivide the property into two separate parcels of land for 4 new townhouse dwellings with reduced rear yard, soft landscaping, and lot area. The existing semi-detached dwelling will remain. As I said earlier on, we were discussing the request for adjournment. The committee has already dealt with this application, this property, twice since 2023. So we're pretty familiar with the landscape. However, your request is somewhat different than what was approved 3 years ago. Anyway, if you'd like to make a presentation, gentlemen.
Sure thing. So I've got some presentation slides that were sent. Thank you very much. So my name is Brian Polton, planner at Novatech, and I acted as the agent on behalf of the owners to prepare and file the applications being heard today. Next slide, please. So this is a zoomed out air photo of the subject property. It's got 2 addresses. I just note that it's formerly 2 properties that have been merged on title. So you can see in the general area, it's in, there are blocks of low-rise residential development. The property itself is a corner lot that's at the intersection of Cole Avenue and Ravenhill Avenue. You can see further north, there's Byron Avenue and some mid-rise development, and then further north is the Richmond Road. Next slide, please. This is a zoomed in air photo of the property. I'm actually using the 2021 air photo from Geo Ottawa. It's a little bit clearer and sharper. You can see that the property on the west side, there's a semi-detached dwelling that includes 2 units at 438 and 436 Ravenhill. 436 Ravenhill is the semi-detached unit that's on our property, as well as the existing dwelling at 432 Ravenhill Avenue. I'd note that there's a driveway onto the property off of Cole Avenue, just along the southern lot line. As well, you can see there's a right-of-way that is a driveway off of Ravenhill that goes between the 2 houses on the property. Next slide, please. So this is a zoning map of the property. I note that the property actually has 2 zones. It's dual zoned. So the western side of the property is zoned R4UA. The eastern side of the property is zoned R3R. The R4UA zone contemplates a greater density of development. As well, on this figure, I've used the base map on Geo Ottawa, and you can actually see the footprints of the detached garages that are along the southern lot line. So there's 2 garages along the southern lot line. Next slide, please. This is the site plan that's been filed in support of the application. So you can see there's 4 townhouse dwellings that are proposed. They will front onto Cole Avenue. There's 3 new street trees proposed along Cole Avenue. That's actually in the right of way. There's 2 driveways proposed off Cole Avenue that will lead to attached garages. The existing right-of-way that's accessed off Ravenhill is shown on the site plan as well between the 2 houses. We note there is the existing detached garage at the end of that driveway that's proposed to be demolished and replaced with 1 surface parking space. Next slide, please. These are the elevations of the townhouses. So the front elevation there, that will be the elevation that faces Cole Avenue. The right side elevation, that's the elevation that will face Ravenhill Avenue. Next slide, please. The left side elevation there, that will be the elevation that faces the residential development to the south along Cole Avenue. And then finally, the rear elevation, that's the elevation that will face onto the existing right-of-way as well as to the side of 436 Ravenhill. Next slide, please. This is a markup of the reference plan that's been provided in support of the application. It legally describes the subject property that we're proposing to divide, including various part numbers. I've prepared this markup just to illustrate that the right-of-way that's on the property, that includes parts 2, 3, 5, and 6. I will note that this right-of-way permits ingress and egress to the rear yard at 438 Ravenhill, which you can see as well on this reference plan. I note that no parking is permitted in this right-of-way. It is strictly for ingress and egress. And the right-of-way cannot be removed without a court order or without agreement by all parties. Next slide, please. This is our consent sketch for consent application 1. So it's proposing to sever the western side of the property. So it's severing parts 1, 2, 6, 8, 9, and 10 from the retained lands, which is parts 3, 4, 5, and 7. The severed parcel will accommodate the 4 townhouse dwelling units. As well, there's easements proposed over parts 2 and 3, which is the eastern half of the right-of-way. And that's in favor of parts the retained lands, as well as 438 Ravenhill Avenue. Next slide, please. So this is our second consent sketch, and it relates to the retained lands. I will try to get through this. So this is the retained parcel, and this application was filed in support of the easement for the rest of the right-of-way over the property. In terms of the consent rationale, so with regard to the Planning Act, a plan of subdivision is not required for the proper and orderly development of the municipality. The responses to this consent criteria under section 5124 of the Planning Act are detailed in our June 17th cover letter. Next slide, please. So this related to a part of the rationale under the criteria in terms of meeting the general intent and purpose of the official plan. That being said, so as well with regard to the provincial planning statement, as per our covering letter, the consent applications are consistent with the policies of the PPS. Next slide, please. So this is our minor variance sketch, and we're requesting 5 variances. So variances A and B are to permit a reduced lot area for unit 2, which is the southern middle townhouse unit. Variances C and D are to permit a reduced lot area for unit 3, which is the northern middle townhouse unit. And finally, variance E is to permit a reduced soft landscape buffer along the rear lot line. You can see that in the sketch there. That's where E is marked. That is the rear lot line. And so the landscape buffer that's reduced is between that and the proposed parking space. That's replacing the existing detached garage. In terms of the minor variance rationale, the requested variances maintain the general intent and purpose of the City of Ottawa's official plan and zoning bylaw. The requested variances are considered desirable for the use of the land and are minor in nature. The requested variances meet the 4 tests for minor variance under the Planning Act and have provided further rationale in my covering letter. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, the proposed townhouse dwellings represent context-sensitive development, fit the residential character of the existing development along Ravenhill Avenue and Cole Avenue and are appropriate for the development of the property. The consent applications meet the criteria in section 5124 of the Planning Act and are consistent with the policies of the PPS. The requested variances meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. The consent and minor variance applications represent good land use planning. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll also note for the record that staff have no concerns with the application.
Was about to ask them that. Not my job.
Not this month.
You've already done this. So staff are fine with this, and I heard from you earlier on that when we were discussing the request for adjournment that there is no issues as far as the city is concerned with the right of way anymore.
No, there are no concerns, Mr. Chair. The townhouses are located well outside of the easement, so they're not obstructing the egress for vehicular access. And it continues to maintain the right for 438 Ravenhill to use that easement to access their rear yard.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments from the Ms. Leckley?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just clarifying the number of units that are going to be in the new townhouse. So there's 4 townhouses with 6 additional dwelling units. So each townhouse, that's 4, and then there's 6 additional dwelling units within that. So is there 10 total dwelling units in this new parcel?
There is 10 total units, but again, that's 4 townhouse units, which is what
Yeah.
the zoning's based
Well,
on.
with the additional ADUs within
6 additional ADUs across the 4 towns.
across the 4. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the members of staff? All right. Would either the Westboro Community Association and Ms. Klassen have any comments, like to comment on this?
Mr. Chair and members of the committee and city planners, applicant, everybody, thank you. And I don't have prepared comments today, so I'm just going to say that after appearing before you a number of times, it is clear to me, I've learned a little bit about the process, and I do appreciate the work that you do. I made it very clear to the applicant from day one that I would have no opposition to almost anything they would propose, but that we needed to resolve certain issues, which apparently they have disagreed that those needed resolution. I would like to say, again, just thank you for your work. I understand your job is to approve, deny, whatever, applications, numbers, what's minor, what's major. And all of that is outside of anything that I understand about this process. But I will say, I also believe that there is a tone that is set sometimes, or you have the opportunity to set a tone with the members of the community and how we treat each other. And I appreciate this process. In my case, unfortunately, there has been a pattern of behavior that appears to show lack of consultation. It's fine to say something will remain on title, that if it is unusable because of what I'm being told as to what I can and can't do on my property, whether that is who I speak to or whether there's work to joint services that I'm not notified about, there's very little I can do other than, of course, courts. So again, I understand the importance of your job and I want to thank you. And I'm not going to say much about anything else except to say I do believe there's an opportunity here, which is to say there's a process that is really simple and it's sit down You clearly want some land at the front because they've submitted another site plan, which appears to build right in the right of way, which to my understanding is not their legal right, but I guess we're entertaining that. And I need some room in the back. It's kind of a simple conversation in my estimation, but my brain is a collaborative one. So I will keep that brain as long as I can, and I will keep trying to collaborate, and I will do whatever I can to make this work for them, for me. Unfortunately, what is on paper is not particularly functional. If I am told that my gates, our gates cannot open in a certain direction as they have done for 25 years, I can't access my property with a vehicle if I still have a dog. There's some tiny little things like that that just sort of keep coming up. Again, could be resolved with one very simple conversation with a bit of give and take. And I think I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clausen. Sir. Just 1 second. I think Ms. Tremblay has a comment.
Oh. Actually, no, I have a question for Ms. Clausen. So I just want to make sure I understand her comments very clearly, because I think I heard that, and I guess I need to know whether I understood this correctly. So the easements, the way they are proposed, my understanding that is that through additional discussion, there would be some ability to modify ever so slightly those easement parcels in order to accommodate what Ms. Clausen would need. Is that what you're suggesting to us, Ms. Clausen?
100%. They are redrawing every other line on this combined merged property except the ones that involve my property.
See, this is where, okay, and I'd like to hear then from Mr. Chown. He's assured us that there's no issue, but can you speak to that, Mr. Chown? Why hasn't there had that discussion to ensure that those parcels are defined exactly as they need to be to meet everybody's needs?
Ms. Tremblay, this is the first I've actually heard that there's a concern about the configuration of the right-of-way as registered on title. My understanding, and actually what I heard from Ms. Clausen a moment ago, was that she believes that our client plans to build within the right-of-way, which has never been the proposal, and that has never been before the committee. I've never heard a concern that the right-of-way as defined and registered on title isn't functional. That's news to me as of 30 seconds ago. I believe that the right-of-way is functional, and there's been no, and that I also understood until a moment ago that the concern by Ms. Clausen, and as represented by her legal counsel previously, that our client was somehow going to impede her ability to use the easement as registered, which has never been the case. But I've never heard that there was an issue with the defined right-of-way as registered on title and the ability of Ms. Clausen to access her rear yard using that right-of-way. I've never heard that before.
Okay, so just another question then. Have you ever had a chance to walk that easement with Ms. Clausen to understand like some of the issues that have been raised over the years? Just like to find out just how much, to use Ms. Clausen's word, collaboration there might have been in trying to resolve the issue. Can you just tell me in your own words?
So I have not done that, and nor has Mr. Poulton done that. The operation and maintenance of that right-of-way is between our client and Ms. Clausen. She clearly has a legal right. Our client has never denied her that right. I know that he has reached out to her as recently as this morning in an email, so the lines of communication are still open.
Anything further, Ms.
Yeah, I just couldn't get that mute button back on. So, okay, back to you, Ms. Klassen. I just want to understand something further. So you had mentioned that this proposal is different than the proposals that had come forward before. So we're now looking at some townhouses rather than, I believe it was singles before. Has the configuration of the easements that were requested back then and what's being requested now, are they different in any way?
I don't, to the right of way that accesses my property.
So between the two proposals, before and now, and the configuration of the easement being requested, is there any difference in that easement, or does it?
Yes, I believe there, maybe not in the lines, but there certainly is in use, and it's not clear to me at all who is using it or who's parking on the parking pad or why there's a severance. So I don't think the lines have changed, though again, their site plan does have encroachments into the right of way. And so what is not being addressed is if they can encroach from that side and then they can encroach from the other side. I literally have no access. And similarly at the back, and I will walk the property with anybody and I will redraw lines with anybody because I don't know why we wouldn't. I don't know why we didn't do this 4 years ago. As long as there's some access for my property, which is problematic currently as it is drawn. And yes, that was brought up in the last meeting.
All right, so back to Mr. Chown, if I could. How far along in that site planning process are you?
So there is no site plan application. Our client, and we provided an email to the committee this morning. Building Code Services advised our client in December of last year that the building permits for this project, as you see it today, was ready for him to pick up. It wasn't at the 11th, let me finish and answer your question. It wasn't at the 11th hour, it wasn't even at the 12th hour, it was 1 o'clock in the next morning that somebody in Building Code Services realized that the site plan submitted with the building permit reflected a property line that had never been established, and which is why we're back today to reestablish the exact same lot line that this committee approved 2 years ago. What's before you today is no different than what was before you 2 years ago in terms of the lot lines we're creating or that the easement that we're respecting. Ms. Klassen is correct. The lines have never changed in terms of the lines defining the right-of-way. That right-of-way was established a long time ago. I don't know when, years and years ago, associated when the existing semi was split. So there are absolutely no changes to the right-of-way. Ms. Klassen keeps saying that the site plan is showing encroachments into that right-of-way. Our client can't build anything on the right-of-way. She's misleading the committee with those comments. And in terms of who's going to use that right-of-way, it will be her and it will be one of the owners or tenants of the building. There's only one parking space available to the development that is going to be using that shared right-of-way. No different than today, where both sides of the semi can use that right-of-way. It's not exclusive for her use, but there is only one parking space for this development accessible using that right-of-way. Nothing is going to change in terms of the number of people using that right-of-way. The other parking is provided off of Cole. There are 2 garages accessible from Cole, each of which can provide a parking space in the garage and a parking space in the driveway. Nothing is changing. The specter that's being raised at the committee today doesn't exist. Nothing is changing in terms of the use of the right-of-way. Nothing is changing in terms of the description of the right-of-way, and nothing is going to change in terms of the utility of the right-of-way.
All right, thank you. I just, can we just get confirmation? Not that I don't trust you, Mr. Chown. I just want to hear from staff and have them. I know they said there's no issues, but can you confirm that there has been absolutely no change from before to today?
Yes, so staff can confirm that the easements were established in 1979 when the semi-detached was originally severed. And the development that's before the committee today, there's no material changes to those easements. The only change is the ownership, whereas the new townhouse development will own part 2/6 of the easement. Meanwhile, the existing semi-detached known municipally as 436 Ravenhill will continue to own part 3 and part 5 of the easements.
All right, thank you. That cleared things up for me. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Tremblay. And one further question from us regarding encroachment. I'm assuming that staff have carefully reviewed the documents that are before them. Have you found any evidence of an encroachment issue?
To the best of my knowledge and from my review, I see no evidence of an encroachment within the existing easement. And to their point, the easement is intended to be used for a singular parking space located in the rear of one of the townhouse units.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the, hang on, anyone else in the audience who would like to speak to this application or online? All right, okay, go ahead.
I wonder if they can bring up the site plan again. So if you look on the rear of the property, abutting the right of way, if you start with those first two little green planters, I guess they're calling, they are clearly encroaching on the right of way. Then you go down and there's the walkways. I don't know if those are walkways or steps or whatever, but clearly those are some kind of something needed to get into. It's probably the lower unit, secondary unit of each one of those primary units. Those people that are living in those secondary units in those dwellings are gonna need to access their unit via the right of way, because I don't see where they've illustrated any way that they can walk on the non right of way area in the backyard to get to the units. It's clear as day to me that there's encroachments on the right of way. And that's all, the Kathleen is talking about. She may be able to, accept those encroachments in terms of, that could be the best way that the new units can function, but she needs some kind of, guarantee. And actually, it's in the best interest of the applicant, because I could buy Mrs. Kathleen's property from her and in 10 years. And the first thing I will do is say, get your encroachments off my right of way. Right of ways, they never change. She still has the 100% guarantee of use of the full right of way, the full 15 feet. So when they design a development that clearly encroaches on the right of way, and yet they seem to deny that right here. They've said that there is no encroachment, but if you look at the site plan, it's clear they're there. And I understand there's this thing with, you know, where the asphalt is now, and doesn't matter. She has the right to use the full 15 feet of the right-of-way, whether she chooses or not. She may change her mind in 10 years and decide, I want to buy a Hummer and I need a wider, you know, piece of asphalt. That is her right to do that. So what I am saying is that Novatech should just sit down with her, and if they want somebody to work in between, the Westboro Community Association will do that. We have spoken with Kathleen, you know, a couple of times, and she has expressed the kinds of things she wants, and it's clear to us that it's reasonable. And we feel that if there's just some kind of sit down and talk back and forth, that an agreement that will benefit both sides here can easily be reached. Thank you.
Gentlemen, I'm looking at the site plan that's in front of you.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman,
And just a second here. The right of way is denoted on this site plan as the gray hatched area.
I believe what you see on this site plan, the green line delineates the limit of the right of way. The red dashed line is a zoning line. Mr. Gray's absolutely right. We can't encroach in the 15-foot wide right of way. This site plan is here for information purposes. If in fact those planters are within the 15-foot right of way, they can't be put there. They'll be pulled back outside the right of way. Our client fully understands he can't place anything in the right of way to obstruct access. We're wasting a tremendous amount of time debating this. If Ms. Clausen believes that they've placed something in the right of way, please let us know. Please let our client know, and it'll be removed. We're wasting a tremendous amount of time debating something that is not an issue. Our client understands absolutely that Ms. Clausen has an unfettered right to access over the full width of that right of way. We're wasting the committee's time having this discussion.
Which is why I asked you if the gray
I believe it
area
is.
is the right of way.
I believe it is, but even if it isn't, sir, we're still not going to impede her access.
Mr. Chair, I was a land surveyor for 35 years. I can look at that, and I've looked at the R plans that are registered against the property. I've looked at the easement. I've looked at all the registered plans, and I can tell you with 100% certainty, if you see the line that's on that plan that's between the R3 R zoning and the R4, that red line there is the limit of the easement, because that was the limit of the original property that the semi-detached was on. Clearly, you know, it's great for Murray to sit here and say, yeah, we can address that. Well, they should have done their due diligence prior to this and made sure that they were compliant with the rules and regulations regarding right-of-ways. This is Kathleen's property that she has spent her life savings on it. Anything that encroaches on that right-of-way, it really affects the value of her property. And they still haven't addressed how they expect the residents in those lower units, the basement units, to access the property. How do they get into their units without going over the right of way? And Kathleen is not opposed to that, but granting them, you know, some kind of a right of way or use, but that's not just one person. That is 4 additional people. So it's clear, it clearly doesn't, you know, add up here.
Mr. Chow?
Mr. Chair, you know, Mr. Gray, I appreciate is, you know, a little upset here, but we're talking about a piece of property that is owned by our client. The tenants of the building have a right to walk anywhere on that property. The right-of-way is not exclusive. That right-of-way does not, the property does not belong to Ms. Clausen. The property belongs to our client, and tenants are free to walk on that property anytime they want to, if they need to do that, to access the back of the units. I'm not sure what the fear is of a tenant walking down that driveway to access the back of the unit. They're not parking there because they can't. Only one of the tenants is going to be allowed to park back there, and they can't park in the right of way. They can park in the parking space that's shown on the site plan. I'm quite frankly bamboozled by the conversations we're having right now. Mr. Cray is absolutely right that Ms. Clausen has a right to unfettered access to a 15-foot wide right of way. My client acknowledges that. If there's something encroaching, it will be removed.
Very briefly, please.
So how about filing a site plan that does not contravene what you just said?
Mr. Chow?
If the committee wants to see a revised site plan before they issue their decision, we can do that. But quite frankly, I think we're wasting time.
Well, this is the revised site plan, correct, Mr. Chow?
We have revised it a couple times. We have revised the site plan a couple times in support of the application.
What we have before us is the most recent.
It is the most recent, yes.
All right.
I would just note the red dashed line that's the boldest to the north that turns is the proposed lot line. The red dashed line that's faded out a little bit, there's notes that it's the boundary between the zoning. My understanding is the easement that was established does not relate to where the zoning line is. They're separate lines. The easement is registered on an old reference plan. It is not the zoning line. And again, we will have to confirm that the right-of-way is not being obstructed at all.
Again, that's a matter between adjacent property owners.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Can we get on to, well, actually, I have a couple of questions. I got one particular question. Gentlemen, you're putting on this corner a lot more dwelling units than exist now. And section 56-56(1) of the act of the zoning bylaw is very clear on the adequacy of services, water and sewer. And I note in the staff report that the conditions they put on here speak to that in some detail. And I'm just wondering, given that staff are requesting a servicing plan and not a servicing study, that a servicing study would not be more appropriate for this location to determine that there is adequate reserve capacity in the sewer and adequate reserve capacity in the water system. I mean, there's already conditions in that staff are asking for regarding wastewater. Frankly, I would be happier if there was a strengthened request for a servicing study to ensure that there's not going to be problems down the line in the future in this residential neighborhood.
Mr. Chair, I've got 2 responses to your question, and thank you for that. Firstly, as I said a little earlier this afternoon, Building Code Services notified our clients in December of last year that they were prepared to issue the building permit for this project as you see it before you.
Yeah.
That means that City of Ottawa Infrastructure Services reviewed the application for building permit before signing off on that building permit. So that sign off has already occurred. Secondly, I can tell you that I had extensive involvement with a zoning application to increase the unit potential on the north side of Ravenhill.
Yep.
Immediately across the street from this site. At that time, staff did ask for a serviceability study. At the end of the day, the zoning was approved and the increase in units was approved at that time through a site-specific amendment. So although staff are asking for a serviceability study, I don't believe that there are any issues or that a serviceability study will identify any constraints.
Given that you've already undertaken one for the other side of the street and it's the same sewer. And the same
Correct. I would expect the same conclusion.
So you're confident that it's not, for the record, that there's not going to be an issue with these number of units going in.
Correct.
On this block of this street.
Correct. And the number of units are supported by the official plan, the PPS, and by staff.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chow. Any other questions? Ms. Tremblay.
Actually, I'd prefer Mr. Gildart to proceed if he is addressing the issue with regards to servicing.
Yeah, so I was just going to add that this was reviewed by the engineering department and there are no concerns related to capacity in this area.
All right.
So, Mr. Chair, if I might, then I would tend to agree with Mr. Chow that there's been an awful lot of discussion here today. I guess it's too bad that it took all this discussion for us to finally understand that, yes, we do have a bit of an issue. We have a site plan that actually doesn't seem to align completely with the right of way. And I, for one, I believe in I'm a planner. That's my background. So I believe in good consultation ahead of having applications come forward for approval. I also would really like to see a revised site plan because ultimately that's what we're approving. And after this much discussion, I would want to have some assurance that what it is we're approving is in fact what the whole discussion was intended to result in. So I don't think we can, I'm not sure if we can put a condition in that, the revised site plan and talk about, the alignment with the easement or something to that regard, so that we have that confirmation and so that the discussion just doesn't go any, like, I'm just worried that after all this discussion, it could all be lost if we don't have some sort of way to capture it.
So, Mr. Chair, further to Mr. Polton's comments, there may not be any revisions required to the site plan. So just, I want to caution you that there may not be any changes. We'll go back and in the abundance of caution and make sure that the site plan properly represents the width of the easement. And we will confirm that with staff. Either it does, or if it doesn't, we'll amend the site plan accordingly to make it explicitly clear to everybody that there are no encroachments proposed within the right of way. And I would suggest to you that that's for the benefit of the committee and for your information, but whether or not there are encroachments into that right of way shouldn't influence your decision. I don't believe there are, but if there are, there is recourse and our client will have to remove them. It should not be a factor in your decision on the applications before you today. You have to base those decisions on the 4 tests for the minor variance and the criteria of 5124, none of which say that we have to worry about whether or not that right-of-way is properly protected today. We can deal with that. I'll take it up with our client. we'll make sure that there are no encroachments in that right of way. I give Mr. Gray my word. I give Ms. Clausen my word that we will do that. I give the committee my word that we will do that.
All right, well, with all due respect, though, Mr. Chown, the reality is you've submitted a site plan in evidence for approval. And then you're saying, don't worry about, what the site plan really looks like because we'll play by the rules. But the reality is, if we open the floodgates to that, where, we would never worry about the integrity of a site plan that comes before the committee, then I don't know, like I'm not comfortable with that, right? I mean, I take my position as a member of this committee seriously and to make decisions on the evidence that's before me, not to say, well, don't worry about it. There's, maybe a little bit of vagueness there, but we'll make it good. So I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, like put yourself in the committee's position and the evidence that's provided to us. So anyway, I just wanted to make that comment because I wouldn't want people to think that they can start submitting site plans that lack integrity in terms of the information that they're providing.
Understood, and we had no intentions of submitting a site plan that would question the integrity of the information we were providing. And I apologize to the committee if it's inaccurate, but at the moment, I'm not persuaded that it is inaccurate.
But if we have to wait for potentially a modified site plan, we can't make a decision today.
So, Mr. Chair, I have seen many occasions where the committee has withheld their decision pending receipt of revised plans. I've seen that many, many times. I would be comfortable with a decision of that nature this time, or for you to advise us of that for this application. And as I say, it may turn out that the site plan you have today is accurate. But Mr. Poulton and we can't say with absolute certainty that it is. We believe it is. Mr. Gray believes it isn't. So we need to go away and be 100% sure that it is. But you have made decisions or withheld decisions previously, subject to receiving revised plans. We would be quite happy with that direction from the committee today. On the merits, I haven't heard anything on the merits of the application from Ms. Clausen or Mr. Gray. You've heard from staff, they have no concerns. They've told you on several occasions they believe that the right-of-way, there's no issues with the right-of-way. We've told you and we've told Ms. Clausen and Mr. Gray that we and our client will respect those legal obligations. I would hope that you can still make the decision if you want, and we're happy to come back to the staff before you issue the decision, which gives us to the end of till sometime on Friday, I believe, to either confirm that the site plan properly respects the right-of-way, or we will provide an updated site plan that does respect the right-of-way. But you've done this before, and I would ask you to consider doing that again.
So through you, Mr. Chair. So my only question then is, will the community association have a chance to verify that revision? Is that part of your process to ensure that
happy to
it's
share it
correct?
with Mr. Gray. I have Mr. Gray's coordinates. I'm happy to share it with him, or we can even copy him on the communications to the committee.
That would be fine with me then.
Yeah, our decision is issued next Friday. So that
Right.
means
Sorry, so it gives me a bit of time.
As expeditiously as you can make it.
Thank you for reminding me, Mr. Chair. So that gives us a little bit more time to do our due diligence and make sure that we've got everything properly lined up. Mr. Chair, do want to remind the committee that we had advised in an email this morning that we had some concerns with condition 2. You raised other conditions, but we did want to speak to the
Yeah.
requirement for stormwater management report.
As far as the conditions that have been had indicated to us, independent services, grading and drainage, Adjournment, resurfacing agreement, cash in lieu. Existing detached dwelling has been demolished, revised tree information report, and the 3-meter corner side triangle. You're okay?
Yeah,
And
all
the
of it.
issue, and the issue with the stormwater management report is?
Yes, so I've repeating myself. The city was prepared to issue a building permit in December without preparing a stormwater management report for this property. If they were prepared to issue a permit then, I'm not sure why they wouldn't be prepared to issue a permit today without a stormwater management report for this site. I'm not aware of issues that would lead to this requirement. And our client was that close to getting a permit without doing one. It's time consuming, it's expensive, it will delay the project unnecessarily.
Perhaps staff can address the issue.
Sure. Yeah, so we're asking not for a full stormwater management study in this case. We're asking for a report that is essentially going to show what is happening to the natural drainage patterns in terms of where the water is going onto neighboring properties or into the city's system. In this case, the townhouse development is significantly increasing the amount of impervious areas on the site compared to the existing dwelling that's there today, or what was approved in 2023 in terms of a single unit dwelling and a semi-detached dwelling. In this case, we're just asking for them to, start to consider what is going to happen with that stormwater to make sure it's meeting the city's requirements.
John?
If I may add,
Sorry.
If I may add to the variance that is being requested today too is to reduce the landscaping buffer in the rear yard. And this is also an irregular shaped lot, whereas they're supposed to provide a 4.5 meter landscaping buffer along what is defined as the rear yard. In this case, the rear yard is a smaller section of the lot due to it being irregular in shape. So there is actually a lot less landscaping that we would typically see on traditional lot due to it being a corner, but then also irregular in shape. So those are the reasons that we're requesting it. There's also a specific section within the official plan. So section 4.7.1.6 reads that as part of any complete application or redevelopment is to require and identify and mitigate the impacts of additional runoff that's resulting from increased impervious through measures such as site-specific stormwater management.
Yeah, I agree with that. Are there storms on this street?
There is, sir.
Ms. Williams, you had a comment, I believe.
Sorry, yes, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to go back to the revised site plan.
Yep.
Committee staff will need that no later than Tuesday of next week.
That won't be a problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I just may conclude, stormwater management wasn't an issue for the city in December. I'm not sure why it's an issue today. Thank you.
You've read section 210 of the draft bylaw, Mr. Chown?
Section 210 of the draft bylaw?
Yeah.
I think I know what you're getting at.
I think stormwater management is going to be definitely on everybody's minds by this time next year. So
Understood.
you guys like to reference the new official plan all the time. I think you should remember that section. Anyway, Ms. Klassen, just very briefly.
I just had a question about the permits in December, which I think you said, Mr. Chown, BCS was prepared to grant a permit. Is that correct?
Yes, and BCS is Building Code Services.
Yes. Was that on the old plans or these current plans?
The current plans.
The current plans. Okay. Just
all right. Anybody on the line who would like to comment on this application or in the hall? Do we have any further comments from members of the committee or staff? Okay. What we're going to do is reserve on this. We are awaiting a potentially revised site plan from the applicant's agent, and fingers crossed the decision will be issued next Friday. Thank you, everybody, for participating.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to take another moment. After slightly more than 35 years with Novatech, I'm easing into retirement. And for good or bad, this may be my last appearance before this panel of the Committee of Adjustment. We've had some very interesting discussions over the years, including this one. I'm not sure I'm going to miss you all, but it's been a ride for
See you at the Christmas party.
35 plus years. So thank you very much.
Sure.
I have a proposed party for him. The right of way, I'll walk, we'll walk.
Could I just say, Murray is always the strongest advocate for his clients. And sometimes you hate that, but he's got a job to do, and he's one of the best representing his clients. He's a bulldog.
So if you're going into a sole proprietorship, you may want to consider him. All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You'll be hearing from us in next week. And with that, that concludes this hearing of the Committee of Adjustment.